Just not in our history textbook. Gimbel scratched his head. Our book sucks, I get it. But why didn't you just write down whatever it says and walk away with an A? Mulder shrugged. Because the information is wrong. Who cares? I do. Mulder was sick of people feeding him lies. He had to choke them down at home, but he refused to do it at school, too. Will your dad be pissed about your grade? Gimbel asked. Mulder snorted. He doesn't even know I had a test. You're lucky. The major is always asking me questions. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a copy of the class syllabus. He'd never met Gimbel's dad, but from what his friend had told him, the man sounded intense. Most fathers wouldn't make their sons call them the major. Your dad can't be that bad, Mulder said. Not many people have a wide field reflecting telescope at home. Gimbel grinned. Okay, the telescope is pretty rad. A friend of the major's from the Air Force got a hold of it for him. It's nothing like the amateur grade models they sell in stores. Seriously? I had no idea. Mulder laid on the sarcasm. I'm completely unfamiliar with Newtonian infinite axis telescopes. Show off. Mulder laughed. It would be nice to put my insomnia to good use and get an asteroid or Martian crater named after me like George Hale. Are you sure your dad won't mind if I try it out? I told you, he said it was cool. Gimbel flicked his head to the side, just enough to get the long hair out of his eyes, something he did at least 50 times a day. Let's go see a guy about a telescope. Mulder picked up his pace. As a kid, he'd wanted to be an astronaut when he grew up. He was 10 years old when his dad told him that it would never happen. Astronauts had to pass a vision test, and Mulder had protanopia, a type of red-green color blindness. Most people thought it meant that he couldn't distinguish between red and green, but protanopia only affected his ability to see red. One color. That was all it took to crush Mulder's dream. There's a bunch of other stuff I want to show you, too. Gimbel scrambled ahead and turned around to walk backward, facing Mulder. I've got 48 Star Trek cards, not including doubles. No one counts doubles, you know. And I have the Dr. Bones McCoy card that came out 3 years ago, in mint condition. That's cool. Mulder was used to epic levels of Star Trek devotion. Phoebe, his best friend back home in Martha's Vineyard, collected the trading cards too, along with everything else related to the TV show or the movie. I've got something even cooler. Gimbel stumbled on a crack in the pavement, but managed to catch himself. Well, maybe not cooler, but almost as cool, or equally as cool, he said, as if the Star Trek gods had tripped him for making the comment. Like what? Gimbel turned onto a residential street lined with brownstones. Instead of answering the question, he stopped in front of the second house. This is it. I hope you have good junk food. Mulder followed his friend up the steps. All we have at my dad's is sunflower seeds. Gimbel hesitated at the door. The major is kind of strange. I told you that, right? At least 100 times, Mulder said, including 30 seconds ago. Whose dad isn't? Kind of is probably an understatement, and all the news reports about the missing kid are making him worse. Billy Christian. That was the little boy's name. For a moment, Mulder couldn't catch his breath. It felt like someone was squeezing all the air out of his lungs, and then the feeling passed, like it always did. Gimbel was still talking. My mom's death really screwed him up, you know? I get it. Mulder's mother had never been the same after his younger sister, Samantha, disappeared almost 5.5 years ago. Every night she would put on her apron and prepare one of her specialties, meatloaf or a casserole, in an attempt to make